Where does this Jeremy Renner-led crime drama rank compared to other Taylor Sheridan creations?
There's a new warden in town. Just how will this disrupt how Mike and Bunny keep the prison under their thumb?
Red and Red Real Reviews juggles the complicated dynamics of power and crime with Mayor of Kingstown, Season 4 on Paramount+. I knew within the first 5 minutes I was going to hate it, but then it was so bad. Ugh.
Nobody wants this?
Like, literally nobody wants this.
Internet's going to get mad at me for this one. There's no fat L. You know?
Duty, which I can't say without laughing. Duty, like I'm English.
John B and Sarah are, I don't want to sound like a loser for saying this, but they're adorable. I'll admit it.
Welcome back to another episode of Red and Red Real Reviews. So this is a fun one because what we're covering today has a special place in our hearts. We've covered it before, but also I might just go out on a limb and say that this might be one of the most consistent and one of the best Taylor Sheridan shows. And that is, of course, that's my claim. It's up there with Landman. Landman is one of the best, I'm going to say. Well, we'll see coming soon in the second season. We'll see. But today we're talking about Mayor of Kingstown on Paramount+, and this is Season 4. So before we dive in, let us know what you think of the podcast as a whole or as a possible show we should have on our radar by emailing us at redandredrealreviews@gmail.com and following us on Instagram, redandredrealreviews. So that is the letter N in between and real spelled with 2 E's, just in case. Okay, so we've said this before, and again, I don't know why you would be looking into a Season 4 review of a show, but please, if you have not watched Season 3 or the prior seasons of Mayor of Kingstown, please don't go any further because this will spill the beans for you, okay? Don't go any further.
We're very specific when we title our episodes that you know which season we're talking about.
Yeah, I just don't want to spill the beans for anyone. So don't go any further. Don't do it. But of course, if you have watched Season 3, this is where we're going to get down to business. So, okay, when we opened this season for Season 4, we're kind of wondering what's going to happen with a few different things. We have the whole Kyle debacle after he shot Robert, where, what's going to happen to Kyle, what's going to go on with that. And then we have, this was such a sad scene in the end of last season, the whole thing with the prison warden, Kareem, when he was just like butchered to death. I don't even like talking about it. That was such a sad, terrible moment for me. So yeah, he was savagely killed at the end of last season. So obviously, we know that they're going to bring someone in to fill his shoes. So, given those couple things that happened, what were your expectations or hopes for things we might see this season?
A lot of resolution. So the raid that Ian, Kyle, Robert, they kind of skirted around in executing that, skirted around some laws, some rules that they probably shouldn't have, rules of engagement. So resolution on that, seeing what the fallout's going to be from that. There's obviously a big resolution with the prison, what happened to Kareem, how that's going to affect Mike and Bunny's power dynamic with how they keep the prison in line so that the life outside the walls of the prison are, not so volatile. In like how that might play with because Raph, Bunny's, former, I don't know whether he's a brother, cousin, former gangmate, whatever. Raph was very new in establishing his authority in the prison in Season 3. So seeing how this Kareem thing will affect the power dynamic Raph and how that transfers over to Bunny and Mike. That obviously there's a lot hanging in the balance of that. And then, of course, the big elephant in the room that is Merle Callahan, because that's a major villain, a very cold type of villain, and someone that has a long history with Mike, uh, being, I would think, at bare minimum, a very big monkey wrench to throw in the works of how everything else kind of transpires.
Yeah, because unlike Milo, who is dead and gone, as my husband likes to say, dead and gone.
Dango.
Um, dead and gone. So, Callahan is actually alive. So, you know, we have the assumption like, oh, he's not going to be a problem anymore, but is that true or not? We don't really know. So,
Oh, because he's very much a puppet master. So, and
oh yeah.
he gives off the energy that he's a puppet master. So, just him being alive is no less a threat than he if he was out of the prison and actually, creating all sorts of chaos and drama in Mike's life directly.
Yeah. So, speaking of chaos, I mean, what we only had one episode to watch. They're being a little stingy, like, Tulsa King, but we only had one episode to watch. But given that, what would be your one thing this season to watch for?
Yeah, it very much seems to be the strategy of Paramount to leg out these Taylor Sheridan originals because they know there's such a following behind them,
Right.
so it kind of keeps people on the hook and keeps people
Mm-hmm.
subscribed. Mine, I want to dive in a little bit more on the plight of Kyle. So this legal situation with how the raid is unfolded,
Mm,
Ian has Evelyn, who's the district attorney, down his throat. Trying to like it's almost like she knows that Robert was in the wrong, that he went rogue,
mm-hmm.
but and she kind of is offering an olive branch, but not in the most palatable of means to Ian to try and uncover this and get Kyle out. And that seems to be the only way that she thinks she can save Kyle from doing time. And Kyle's doing the honorable thing by serving time, but everyone else is kind of like, between Tracy, between Mike, between Ian, between Evelyn, like everyone else has a different opinion of what Kyle's doing here. Um, and that's kind of where it starts. And then as far as Mike's kind of goal to get him out is it's it's gonna add. I feel like it's gonna add some drama to the fact that this guy Kyle is another is he's given off the impression that he's a good friend, a good brother, a good husband, a good father, and he's stuck in a situation where all these hardened criminals want a notch on their belt of killing a cop.
Yeah. So I really like Kyle as a character. So I'm always kind of rooting for him. So yeah, it makes me worry quite a bit, which Mike is also quite worried about what's going to happen to his brother. And he's kind of doing everything in his power to make sure nothing bad happens. But to your point, killing a cop is a notch on their belt for these hardened criminals. So yeah, I mean it's tough because he was actually doing the right thing, but the whole raid, and I mean I love Ian too, but like he's not the most righteous guy. So you kind of get a little nervous with how things are going to go when they are skirting around the laws, and then you have Evelyn who Mike is kind of torn between because like they used to hook up and they kind of had a relationship and like he has feelings for her, Mike does. So yeah, it just kind of makes it complicated because she's got to lay down the law, but in the same regard, she's trying to lay down the law on his brother and his friends. So it's just a dicey situation.
Yeah, I almost feel like Ian tries to do what Mike does, but he doesn't realize that he doesn't have the liberty to do what Mike does. Like Ian has to try to tiptoe this line between what they have to do to get shit done, proverbially speaking, and what he can do within the parameters of his job. And Mike doesn't have to deal with that because Mike, he's the mayor. I don't know whether it's whether it was, I don't remember whether it was actually confirmed whether he's the actual mayor or he's just the
No,
assumed
it's just
mayor. Yeah,
a figure of
yeah,
speech. Like he runs things, even though he's
yeah,
not like elected mayor. Yeah, it's just
yeah.
a
Yeah, which is always funny to me because, of course, he operates his business out of this like office that looks like it's an official capacity of some sort, and he has an assistant and all that. Um, so that's always a funny thing to me. But like even so, Mike has the freedom to operate in a way that he can skirt the laws a little bit, but he also has a sense of honor code about him where he knows when to stop. He knows like, okay, I know we can only go this far, and I sometimes it's because he has to keep the balance with Bunny, but
yeah.
sometimes it's just because he knows that there's lines that cannot be crossed because that's going to very much blur the lines and put him and his family and Kyle and Tracy at risk as well. Whereas Ian kind of struggles with that boundary.
Yeah, Ian kind of has the habit of overreacting or
Yeah,
over presenting his boundaries to where like shit goes down and he's like, "Oh no, I didn't intend for that." But it's like you should have been a little more careful. You should have thought about that a little bit more before, but he just kind of like reacts without thinking.
he's
And
very volatile.
yeah, again, I like him and I think he has, good intentions and everything, but in doing the things he does, but sometimes he just reacts too quickly and makes some kind of mistakes and does stupid things, and so that makes me a little bit nervous. But yeah, I mean, I just hope that everything with Kyle goes as planned, as good as it can go.
Yeah, Kyle's very much I don't want to say a fish out of water, but he's kind of he's thinking that he'll just do 6 months, get out, everything will be okay. He's kind of taking for granted what Anchor Bay is.
Yeah. And so getting into my one thing, which very much has to do with what's going down with the prison, is the thing I would watch for is the new warden, and that's played by Edie Falco. So I'm a Sopranos fan, so obviously I love Edie Falco. And the fact that too in this she plays like a tough broad prison warden, and I think there's going to be a lot of meat in this role for her, and I'm excited. So her hair is dark in this. She doesn't have that signature blonde like Carmela Soprano. So it's very obvious so far in just this one episode that she's going to give Mike a run for his money. Like he's going to have a really hard time trying to collaborate with her because she's just not having it. Like she's by the book and she's like one of those like tough but fair people, and she's basically talking about how her track record is so good. She said violence or crime reduces like a sauce, under her. I thought that was like such a weird but like cool comparison. She was talking about like her track record at the prison she worked at before, where she's not taking any shit. She's like, I'm not taking any shit. And also, like, I don't need your help, Mike. Like, I know the arrangement that you had with Kareem, and like, I am not Kareem, so I am not having this. So he's basically like, oh shit, what am I going to do now?
She's very forceful that she's not Kareem. I think in that conversation she even makes a point of that twice that their relationship's not going to continue as it did.
Yeah. And she also, she well, Mike is trying to, the fact that he can't really reason with her, he's like, well, can you put Carney on patrol? Carney's the correctional officer that's like
Yeah.
kind of his right hand man in the prison. And she's like, yeah, no, I can't do that. So he's like really, grasping at straws to figure out what the hell he's going to do because she's not being helpful, and she's made it very clear that she's not going to have a part in his corruption and his power struggle, basically.
Yeah, Mike being a character that has to keep so many lids open on the cookie jars. That's not the right comparison, but it is what it is. Just because of the nature of how he has to operate. Her playing hardball is it opens up this real promising, well, this real kind of tantalizing storyline that Mike and Bunny could lose a grip on the yard.
Yeah, and what's funny is, the poster art for this season is literally like Mike's face and I forget what her name is, the prison warden. So her character's name. So yeah, they're like face to face, like we're about to duke this out. So I think that's definitely going to be the driving conflict of this season, and I'm basically here for it. I think it's going to be crazy.
There's also, like you said, with she's coming in with a long lineage or
Mm-hmm.
hierarchy of past prisons behind her, and she's, as most successful people would do, taking to a new job. They're bringing that, I don't want to say baggage, but confidence with them, whatnot.
Expertise,
Expert,
I
yes,
guess you could say.
expertise would, yeah, the expertise would be the best, would be the better word. Um, she's bringing that with her, and there's with that is this air of assumption that Anchor Bay operates like all her other prisons, which Anchor Bay is very much not like any other prison. So it's it also sets her up a bit on a pedestal that could create opportunity to fall, because this is because of how the audience knows the environment operates in Anchor Bay and in Kingstown in general. It's the confidence can this confidence can be seen as a bit misplaced, for lack of a better, for to say the least.
Right. Like she could have very well squashed the violence in her prior job at a prior prison, but like I think they allude to the fact in prior seasons that this prison in Michigan is like the worst of the worst. Like this is like a
Mm-hmm.
cesspool of crime. Like I think they say that. Like this is one of the worst prisons around. So like the fact that she's getting that job because the prior warden was killed in a riot, like can you
Yeah,
imagine like your predecessor was killed and so you're like, okay, I'm taking this job because someone died. Like that's insane. Like and of course she has a lot of confidence, but like can she, hit those same numbers, and can she do just as well in this freaking pit of hell? I don't know.
right. Because it's assumed that in a prison, alliances form, gangs are a thing. Everyone is kind of in their cliques, but it's a lot different keeping a thumb on that when it's kind of an extreme form of high school clique culture versus this particular prison where you have a large segment which is the Aryan Brotherhood, a large segment which is the Crips, a large segment which is the cartel. Three historically large power players as far as crime and seedy behavior and aggression are concerned. So she kind of doesn't have this full understanding just how much of a tinderbox it is.
Yeah, and I do think, she famously says at the end of her talk with Mike, he's basically like, "Well, if you have any issues, like I'm here for you." And she's like, "Yeah, I'm not going to need your help," basically.
Yeah,
But my prediction is that it's going to maybe get so bad to a point where she's going to be like, "Oh shit, I need to ask him for help," which I really don't want to do, but I'm going to have to. So that's my prediction. But yeah, I'm really excited to see what happens with this like butting of heads, like and if it's going to end up turning into like a desperate alliance because she's going to need the help.
And their personalities are such that they're both very, very alpha personalities. So
Mm-hmm.
even in the most optimal circumstance, there's still that dynamic of who's the alpha of the alphas, so to speak.
Yeah. Okay. So the verdict, which I think I know what the answer is going to be, but should should everyone watch season 4 of Mayor of Kingstown?
Yeah, I'm with it, and we should promise our audience that at some point we're going to come up across a show we don't tell you to watch or tell
Yeah.
you to have trepidation with, but it's not this one. To me, the only quote unquote knock on this series in its history is that there's a lot going on. There's
Mm,
always so many different storylines that some things kind of get lost, and it's very very hard to keep track of a lot of the tangential, more tertiary type of storylines. Like, and as an example, from season 3 going into season 4, I'm watching the recap and I'm like, okay, I kind of remember that, but that one's a little fuzzy.
yeah.
Uh, and I feel like this season is going to be a lot more streamlined because the focus is Mike keeping Kyle safe, Mike
Yeah.
getting Kyle out of Anchor Bay, and the relationship he has with the new warden is very much operating in concert with that, sometimes in opposition to that. So everything through the premiere episode to me is either related to or stemming off of Mike's
Mm,
goal to keep Kyle safe.
yeah. I think that's the one driving force. Yeah. For me, obviously, too, I would say yes, because this show is super consistent. You know, the this is season 4. This is the 4th season where we've had great acting. You know, Jeremy Renner kills it every time. The supporting cast kills it. Um, the writing is good, and unlike some other Taylor Sheridan shows, Linus, Yellowstone, you know, the writing team is very consistent. They're solid. They don't do stupid things. They don't do careless things where you're like, wait, that character wouldn't do that. Or like, wait, this character is gay all of a sudden. Like, they're not going to do shit like that. So I really think this is a solid writing staff. They're hitting out of the park every season. And what's exciting to me too is that I think we may be getting a new villain, you know, to because the fact that Callahan is locked away because of the fact that Milo is dead and gone. Now we have this mysterious villain who pops up, and you guys will see it in that premiere episode.
Within the first 30 seconds of
Exactly.
it. Yeah, I'm definitely curious to see how that will kind of start to play a bit. And I also think that there's that the warden also has a potential, even if not a true villain, some kind of antagonistical
Yeah.
nature to the character.
Yeah, there's some definite conflicts coming in that regard. I mean, that'll be the whole plot of that struggle between Mike and the prison warden, which again, I did not get her name.
I didn't know. I didn't catch it through the first episode either. And to your point on its legacy within the Taylor Sheridan Library, uh, to me, it's also an undersung member of the Taylor Sheridan Library
Yeah.
because, everyone knows Yellowstone, and because of everyone knowing Yellowstone, people kind of know of the spinoff. Tulsa King has Sylvester Stallone, who is very much a, imagery above himself. So,
Hmm.
you know, there's a notoriety with with him as an actor, which transposes onto his character and his show. Lioness gets promoted like an MFer, and Zoe Saldana is a kind of a hot name in popular culture right now. So there winds up being a promotional buzz with that. Kingstown kind of flies under the radar a little
bit. It does. And I wonder if it's because of Jeremy Renner is a pretty critically acclaimed actor, and I have great respect for Jeremy Renner in real life, but yeah, there's something about it. I don't know if it's the fact that it's like a criminal drama. I don't know if it's like because it is kind of dark, it's about like this like crime underworld, like in this crappy town. Like I don't know if it's the nature of it that makes it kind of fly under the radar, but I would agree with that. It's very like underrated.
And Jeremy Renner, like everyone knows his name, but when you think of him in the sense of a lead actor, you think of his most prominent roles. He's, in half a dozen Avengers movies, but he was very much a supporting member of the Avengers. So it wasn't like he was Iron Man or Captain America, right, or one of the leading faces of the series. In The Town with Ben Affleck, he's playing opposite Ben Affleck. So there's no way, it's hard to take limelight off of someone like him. So it's like he has the chops to be a leading actor, but his most prominent roles are not leading roles.
Right. This is his most prominent role. And he's always been a supporting actor in everything else prior to this. So I'm just glad they gave him the chance. This was a COVID show. This show premiered in 2021. So I don't really think it gets the praise it deserves. Like I would put that right up at the top. Again, we'll see how season 2 of Landman turns out, but I would put, Tulsa King as well, in my mind, Tulsa King, Landman, and Mayor of Kingstown are like right here, all on the same level.
Yeah.
And we have like Lioness down here.
I like Lioness, but it's just that one episode every season where it's just like, why?
Always the 6th episode. Yeah. We gotta, and I think that show is unfortunately coming back soon, which, I do somewhat enjoy it outside of Zoe Saldana and outside of everyone turning gay. But yeah, I do enjoy it other than that, but I don't know. We'll see. We'll give it the benefit of the doubt. If I know in a few months it's going to be released. So yeah.
Fingers we'll be covering crossed. It. We'll be covering it because it does actually do quite well for the pod.
Yeah. So fingers crossed that this one comes back as well. So if it does come back for season 5, which I think it will, and I hope it does, we will cover it then. If you enjoy listening to our show, we would appreciate it if you gave us a 5-star review. Let us know what you think of each episode. Also, be sure to hit that follow or subscribe button so you know when new episodes release. Next up, this looks like a really interesting one that caught my eye. It's called Down Cemetery Road, and it's on Apple TV. So this one stars Emma Thompson, who is famously Nanny McPhee. And then you have Ruth Wilson, who played Allison in The Affair from several years ago. So this one is about a search for a neighborhood girl after an explosion. So my curiosity is kind of piqued with that one, with the plot and with the actresses that we know are in it. So it's apparently a novel adaptation, and it was written by the same person who adapted Slow Horses for Apple TV. So that should be interesting.
Cheerio.
Yeah,
our audience.
This is going to be very British.
Yeah, and our audience loves to see Binge the Ginge do accents. So
geez, I'm the worst. The best I can do that my husband and I do occasionally is like mate, or bloody hell, mate.
Yeah.
What's the phrase we usually say? I don't know, but any way you slice it, I do a very poor accent of any kind. Like, don't even ask me to do an Australian. I know we have some Australian listeners, but it's terrible. Don't ask me to do it.
Well, what's not? Yeah, and it's not usually terrible that Apple TV doesn't put out a hit. So there's at least faith going in right off the bat.
Yeah, these are a couple of great actors. Like Ruth Wilson is a very underrated actor. So looking forward to this one, and it's probably going to be extremely British. So there's that. So until the next Real Review, Red and Red signing out.